I think, with SAPA, probably back to 3 decades ago, because I think I attended the first one in New Jersey. So a lot of friends, nowadays, I still see some of the faces during the time, and but myself has been an outsider because I have been only work on basic research. So when the organizer asked me to give a kind of a short brief remarks, I was thinking about what to talk about because maybe I can take this opportunity to express some views. It all started last summer when I went back to Boston to attend my former mentor's retirement event. And one of my old colleagues in MIT, he has been involved in many the high-level development in biotech, and he gave me the right to go to New Hampshire. And he said, during the ride, he said, do you know this year the IPO, China almost like half in the world? I said, wow. I said, I haven't seen the data because I had not really paid special attention to this question. But I was not surprised because I have been involved, as Lee just mentioned, to see how the basic science in China have been evolving in the last 3 decades almost. And I could say in the last 10 years also, the innovation has become the major driving force, even though many of the Chinese colleagues would say they're being, in Chinese we call it 内转, right? It's really, really competitive. But without that, you wouldn't have innovation because right now, you have to innovate to survive or to move forward. So because of this meeting, so I asked my former student actually help me to collect some openly published data just to come up a few slides to illustrate what's the situation right now. So the view is that we're reaching a certain turning point for the Chinese biotech and pharmaceutical industry, simply because the central government is really pushing for this direction. Because China has 1.4 billion population, 4 times the US, and clearly China really needed its own pharma industry. And for a long time, China is really rely on US. Almost all the drugs, importantly the new ones, and always being a follower, always the me too and me better. But suddenly, as my colleague from MIT pointed out, China's reached the point a lot of new, kind of drugs being approved, and now it's moving, from follower, which is very fast. In the past, they can follow once you have patent expired, they already have one. But now they can have the first in class many assets. And this transition is simultaneously in all involved processes, including the policy, capital flows, and also platform technology, and also cross-border dealing. But what has changed? How does this compare to the US, and what future collaboration between the two countries? So let's see, as I mentioned, the policy change is the most important because for a long time, the Chinese equivalent to FDA, they call it National Medical Products Administration, they now have the capacity or manpower or knowledge to look at the new products because many of the old leftover kind of people did not have the training to recognize what's new, what's the follow. But I think under some of the leadership who I guess many people knew because he due to corruption got arrested. But he actually initiated a series reforms. He recruited many people who could evaluate new technology and new drugs. And then from there, the government adopted a series of new policies. And as listed here, 2025, there's so many new drugs approved, both from conventional medicine and also biologic therapies, which is one of the areas China is really leaping forward, based on what I observed. And then also, biotech companies start to reach the maturity stage. No longer is the small, waiting for to be purchased or acquired, but there are some companies already very big. So one, Shenzhou's Belgium, founded by my close friend Wang Xiaodong. I just saw him this 2 weeks ago, talk about this their new development. So this is the really change, the game change. You can see the 2024 data, almost half from domestic approved, and the other half imported by the NMPA. And then you can see that the top policy makers really focus on how to promote this part of the development. And from every single step, you could see the improvement, the enhancement of that. And very interested in local government, because I happened to visit this January in Beijing, and just last month in Shanghai. And you could see the local government from the top down, both the party secretary in Beijing and Shanghai. They both had enough background in this area. For example, Beijing's party secretary Li was a medical school graduate. So he told me that you should visit, what we have been doing in Beijing to see how we can improve. And then, I did visit some places and look at companies. Turns out a large number of foreign companies start to settle down in Beijing, and also that created the environment to allow many of the domestic companies to flourish. And Shanghai Changing is doing the same thing. So you can see that the local government is taking this policy all the way to implementation, and that's why you see this major leap forward development. So now I also want to see that not just the traditional small molecule based drugs, but cell and gene therapy areas moving very fast. Because when we, and I'm most involved in the basic science, when I visited different universities to hear faculty talk about what they're doing, you can see these two areas often highlighted, and they really moving towards almost the forefront, because you can see their publications. The last year, China had 128 cell Nature Science. So if you simply measure by that, I'm not even talking about the medical part of it. Both New England Journal of Medicine, Lancet, all those had significant increase in their publications, suggesting the original findings start to be generated by the Chinese researchers, which translated to drug development, particularly in the cell and the gene therapy-based treatment. So, but there are still many places behind the U.S. because the U.S. is the master in biopharma, and you can see here, FDA still approved so many new novel drugs in last year. And China still had a problem with the VC environment because a few years ago there was a bust, and a lot of investment gone to no return. So that really scared away many of the capitals. And also they needed to have a foreign investment in this area, which had not happened as they would like to see. The government investment, always the problem is that for VCs, it's really hard to you bet on something if, as a government agency, you worry about if they fail, they would, what if they say, you had a responsibility. So all those could continue to hinder Chinese development in this area. So U.S. still have a lot of dominance in those in this relationship. So comparison, the two places now you can see their advantages, disadvantages, but you can see that China is now gradually reaching the point to have an equal position, not like a follower in the last 25 to 30 years development. Only in the recent, maybe 3 to 4 years, suddenly this start to change. So, and then there's also the collaboration is really accelerating. In January, I was in Guangzhou, met one of the hospital's president. He told me that how many big farms from the U.S. acquire what they have been doing, and they have helped a lot of clinical trials, and there's some of the small companies also being purchased by the larger companies in the U.S. So this clearly is going to be a continued a major trend. Some of the smaller companies in China also told me they tended to set up joint ventures, because in China the policy from the kind of a medical care, how much the government would pay, really push down the prices. So if you only rely on the Chinese market, you're going to face this issue. The margin always going to be small, because they have this general policy. They supposed to benefit everybody, and affordability is the major issue. So from that end, China would need to continue to open up to the West, where they could potentially acquire much higher percentage of profits to support their own research. But I think in summary, I think that there are a lot of places we can still play a major role, particularly people sitting here, because you often have connections with the Chinese side, and you also know so well in the U.S. My hope is that we should have a continued collaboration to benefit all humankind, because we're not just doing things for a specific population, even though there are differences in terms of diseases, prevalences. So at least something, the last one I want to send Dr. Tang. I guess you gave a very important presentation today, because in China that's also heard everything we had to embrace AI, from higher education all the way to the industry, everywhere. So when they do that, you can see just like the drug discovery is going to happen. And I already saw many of the places the AI start to be utilized, not just talk about, just not talking about only building new centers, but they're using it. So finally, I just hope this is some kind of a mentality, zero sum. So if you gain, I will lose. I think working together, because each has advantages, and then U.S. clearly still lead in many places, particularly the overall ecosystem. But working together, we move faster and have more better drugs to benefit patients, and that's what we all want to see. Thank you very much.